Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from the sterile, high-stakes courtroom cross-examinations and calculated domestic legal defenses of Washington, D.C., and plunge straight into the atmospheric, calculation-heavy tracking grids of northern lakeside isolation, weaponized small-town secrets, and the fiercely protective world of an independent family asset running raw tactical survival loops. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, fog-shrouded cabins of a secluded Wisconsin lake resort, the unique procedural grid of an active multi-layered double homicide tracking operation, and the lethal analytical parameters of a sprawling, trauma-based survival matrix with It's Not Her, the exceptional, pulse-pounding structural masterpiece engineered by the absolute undisputed sovereign of high-velocity domestic suspense, psychological misdirection, and rogue structural paranoia, Mary Kubica. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, underestimated aunt asset running an unyielding field loop, her missing teenage niece running a blind evasion trajectory, and an absolute defense of a fractured bloodline's final personal sovereignty metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers where an endangered, hyper-observant civilian protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged family dynamics, backroom community gaslighting, and a deadly ring of active municipal cover-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised vacation ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated timeline parsing, and absolute mental stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory threat network, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, peaceful family vacation shattered by a brutal double murder, leaving one child missing and the other unharmed diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Kubica completely dominates the high-precision maternal instincts meet claustrophobic small-town hostility dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Gillian Flynn, Sherry LaPena, Ashley Elston, and Lucy Foley, while treating realistic local law enforcement logistics, complex multi-generational trauma arcs, and protective high-density psychological extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, Courtney Gray, operating under a severe, calculation-heavy handicap of sudden, massive emotional devastation, limited local police transparency, and a hyper-visible targeting profile by the community's defensive entities. Behind Courtney's rigorous database footprints and tense timeline cross-reference records lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried historical family secrets, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind an absolute commitment to protect her surviving bloodline assets, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from defensive local residents, parsing complex behavioral shifts from her sleeping, uninjured nephew Wyatt, and shielding her missing niece Reese from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive or framed as a cold-blooded killer. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. A blood-curdling midnight scream from the lakeside cottage next door cross-references with a high-level calculated malice when she discovers the lifeless bodies of her brother and sister-in-law. As the hidden predator's calculation-heavy execution phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across the resort town, a series of suspicious evidence sabotage attempts, targeted witness frame-ups, and calculation-heavy local interrogation ambushes threaten to permanently eliminate Courtney from the active tracking registry. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when her independent investigative maneuvers and raw defensive output reveal that her search for the truth is radically, impossibly altering the town's historical balance of power. The standard boundaries of routine vacation relaxation and peaceful domestic compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war across the resort's wealthy holiday circles, where deceptive local families, highly manipulative county authorities, and a calculation-heavy psychological shadow network launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the isolated woodland clearings, dark water surveillance perimeters, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Courtney Gray is purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy her massive intuitive puzzle-solving skills, deep familial knowledge, and persistent protective dominance to maintain their perimeter, only to realize her family's hidden internal secrets and shifting narratives match her raw tactical speed step for step. Our protective, hyper-vigilant protagonist is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw intellectual stamina to preserve her focus before the next competitive cleanup phase permanently deletes her progress. Every midnight
archival excavation, every silent choice to stand off against an evasive resort owner behind standard security barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the lake resort's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Mary Kubica reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial setup or managing a difficult police interrogation. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of community hierarchy and domestic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark, possessive loyalty around their survival loop. A brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shift the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient hero must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a domestic psychological thriller, small-town murder mystery, family trauma drama noir, high-velocity contemporary suspense puzzle that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one-whispered confession triggers a fatal lakeside showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active dual POV tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, where a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Kubica writes with an exceptional, fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, expensive sunscreen oil, dark lake water, damp pine wood, cold morning dew, spilled copper, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this benchmark entry into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. It's Not Her is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes action fiction and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.